what do we call it?
Rules of Open Government Committee.
Yeah,
It's little right here.
yeah, no, but it's, I know it's a meeting of the whole, but it's not a,
It is a meeting.
rules in lieu is what I'm saying.
No, it's not a rules in lieu. It's a regular meeting because you can have a regular meeting with 2 members. You just
Okay.
cannot take action
I see.
as a member. So why don't we go over what it means at this meeting so that everybody in the public understands what will be happening,
Great.
okay? So what we will be doing is we will be going through the 2 agendas. You can go flip page by page like you normally do. However, you will not be able to add any item onto the agenda. You won't be able to take out any item on the agenda. You won't be able to approve an agenda item. You simply will be able to have a discussion of it between the 2 of you and the public.
I feel so useful when we're at these meetings.
Also, with regard to some of the items on the agenda that require approval to be placed on the agenda, those will be going on orders of the day on the 10th or the 17th, depending on when they were scheduled to go on. There are a couple of items that are specifically rules committee items, like the auditor's report. That is only a rules committee. It doesn't go to the council, so that will be forwarded to the next week's rules committee.
Okay.
So you won't have to do that.
And then the public record, what happens to those
The
things?
public record, again, you don't take any action other than to hear the public. You could hear, the public can speak at any item today, you just will not be able to take any action.
Okay. But so, if there is something that I'd like the city manager to address from a letter, because we received a letter that I'm,
You can refer it to the city manager, which is simply a referral, which is not taking any action other
Okay.
than sending it to the city manager
okay then.
with no recommendation.
So let's get started.
Great.
Okay, so I guess we'll review the final agenda for September 10th. It starts on 4 and 5. Six and 7. 8 and 9. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. Bring pajamas. 16 and 17. And that's it. Okay, so we don't need a motion or anything, right?
You can't take a motion.
Okay, let's go to, any questions or referrals? Okay.
Make any referrals.
Yes, well, review draft agenda number for September 17th now. Four and 5. 6 and 7. 8 privacy policy. 8 and 9. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. 16 and 17. All right. Nothing to be said on that one. There's no legislative update.
Reach code is going under environmental and utility services rather than land use?
I see there is no land use for that day, but,
Are the people who would normally come to a land use meeting going to be notified about that item?
They have been. And
Great.
so we will notify for that time specifically, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I guess we're gonna move on to the public record. But
Any comments?
Yeah, my only comment is there was a letter that was given to us by Alum Rock Business Association, and I wanted to refer that to staff to help us answer their concerns.
Nope, we'll take care of that.
Thank you. Well, I guess what do you do with the consent calendar? Just move on?
Just move on.
We're on item number 2.
So 2 and 3 are actions that, that the Rules Committee would take and then refer to the full council. So all that will happen is those 2 items will be referred to the full council on orders of the day. And then the full council will decide whether to put them on the agenda.
Okay, so those of you who are waiting, like Robert, to hear about 3, it's gonna be heard it won't be heard here because we don't have a quorum.
I think they might be next week instead.
Yeah,
We're gonna hear those next week.
G2, 3, and 4, we're gonna bring back next week.
Bring it back next week, not
Well,
this.
but
Do we wanna take-
Three is referral of, that was gonna require the rules to send to the full council for their
Right,
consideration.
but staff wanted to defer it to next week.
So the rules can talk about it and
Yes.
send it for the full council?
Correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Do we want to take public comment on those items if people are
Yeah.
here for them?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
Yes.
take public comment. Let me hear from Robert Aguirre on item number 3, which is the equity study session memo from Perales, Jimenez, Carrasco, Esparza, and Arenas.
Okay, so just before you start the clock, I have a question. Is public comment typically at the beginning or at the end of this meeting, towards the end?
Open forum is at the end of the meeting.
Okay, so then
And
I would
you
speak
c-
on open forum on a different subject.
Yes.
Cool.
If
Alright.
you're commenting about a subject, it's at the time of the
Right.
subject.
Right, but some meetings, they have public comment first, and then they do the rest of the agenda. I just wanted to be clear. All right, so timer go. All right, my name's Robert Aguirre, and I'm here to comment on the memo that was written by council member Perales, Carrasco, Arenas, well, you know them, all that memo. I'm in favor of the study being done. I think there's a lot of inequality in a lot of the way that this government is run. I know they try to be equal and try to provide budget for each one of the districts, but when you have districts that are proportionately left out and don't have that kind of money that from the residents that live in those districts, they can't afford to do the same sort of things that people in, for example, your districts would be able to come up with money to have projects completed that they want to have done. In some of these other poor neighborhoods, we don't have people that are high earners, we don't have people that are in a capacity to be able to contribute. So I suggest that we go forward with this study, and hopefully we'll be able to learn lessons from some of the other cities that have enacted something like that. And I think it's a good idea. I think you should consider doing that. And so we'll see, it's gonna be, when? When are you gonna hear it again?
Next week. We're gonna hear the memo next week.
Next week?
But the study session's already scheduled, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, the administration will be coming forward with a memorandum setting it for October 4th. That hasn't taken place yet.
Okay, all right. So it's already on the study session will already be on the calendar. This is just their memo of what they want studied in the study.
Included in the study.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm glad I can clarify that. All right, yeah, all right. I guess we're gonna go to item number 4 because we have a card from Blair Beekman. This is the monthly report from the city auditor that is not here, unfortunately, because there's no quorum.
Will he be doing this audit next week as well? Oh,
Yes.
great. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait till next week and speak at that time. This would be a time for item G3, the equity study. I read the memo, and its first words use the words, they'll be asking San Francisco, Seattle, Oakland, or Los Angeles what their ideas about equity can be. And I felt the wording of that I know they're trying to go for a particular focus to talk about the item with other cities, but this seems to be an issue that we're all talking about and wondering about, and I think a bit different language could be used for its introduction, and I just wanted to note that. And I guess the issue G4 I wanted to talk about was the new CIO officer, Chief Information Officer, which sounds really interesting. You're beginning a process of
That is not number 4.
it's not G4? Well, as part of the audit process of G4, it was talked about within the audit process, it talked about a new CIO officer and what that job will entail. That will include oversight within intergovernmental departments, within their work, basically. I'm pretty sure it mentions the idea of what the CIO responsibilities will be within that. And thank you. I wanted to be able to, you're gearing up towards how to develop a privacy policy for the city of San Jose, and just thank you for that. And it's a good start and a good step. And I guess just thank you.
All right. I'm feeling generous today because that was not on there. The last thing is open forum. So it's you, Blair. Come back up. Robert, do you want to speak on open forum? I don't have a card for you, but Blair, come up first.
I'll speak first if you give Robert the grand.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, I wanted to say a few words for open forum. I will look up that information on the audit process. It does meant to describe intergovernmental oversight, and I maybe have overassumed that how the CIO will be a part of that process, but it's definitely, it's about intergovernmental oversight for tech projects, which is an important concept and a part of a whole privacy policy idea you'll be talking about tomorrow at Smart Cities that, thank you incredibly for that San Jose is finally doing it. I mean, this is 4 years I've been talking about this, and you're finally beginning to make it happen, so thank you. Within that time, it's going to take another couple years to develop it, I think, and within that time, I'm worried that day-to-day accountability and openness questions will still be a problem and with technology, and I hope, there's a certain select few that you have conversations with that makes it feel like an open process, but it's not for the rest of us. And there is a way that it can be, and it's how to figure out how that can happen and make that future community that's positive and safe and hopeful and good and peaceful that I think we can all understand and try to work towards good democratic practices. And it's important, good stuff. And but you're taking your first steps now, and I thank you. And they're important steps. It's a big one, and it's just the day-to-day stuff that, as we'll be planning this stuff right now, that I hope we all feel hopeful and say good words about. But I hope we'll make the effort to work on the day-to-day openness at this time. Thank you.
Robert?
All right, Robert here again, thank you. I would like to bring up the issue of representation on the SAG. And I believe that we haven't really had proper representation of the houseless community. And everybody up here knows that I work throughout the entire county, not just in the city of San Jose. And I go to encampments and I talk to people and I engage. I'm also at a lot of the meetings, so I know what's going on at the city level and at the county level. And I had a conversation with Jeffrey Buchanan, who represents Wapusa on the SAG, and I asked him if he would put a journeyman on that position to represent the entire labor force, and he said, of course not, we wouldn't do that. So the idea of putting somebody on that SAG committee that doesn't really understand the impacts of what's going on, not just with Google, but with the city and everything else that's happening as a result of that, we don't really have true representation. And I think the number of people that are living outdoors has increased tremendously. We know the numbers went up 42%. And I don't know that this committee has any real say in it, but as public comment, I just want to say that I have been asking since the inception of the SAG committee to be a representative on that committee. And if anything can be done to expand that role to allow somebody who does have that kind of experience and contact formerly homeless himself to be on the committee, I would appreciate anything to that end. Thank you.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.